Well, I don't know where you and Janelle stand. As far as I've heard, you're separated.
She's just not interested in a relationship. She's just plumb not interested in a relationship.
Yeah. I'm guilty of marrying people I wasn't in love with.
I just think that he has amnesia when it comes to the past because you just can't keep up that kind of pretense for 20 years. I know what happened. He can say whatever he wants. It's fine because I just don't care anymore.
Watching the latest episode was a struggle for me, thanks to a few glaring issues. I couldn't even make it through the whole thing. The biggest reason? The overwhelming PDA between David and Christine. I mean, can you imagine being truly having to tag along while your mom makes out with a guy who, after 6 weeks, is still practically a stranger, especially on public TV? It's awkward just to watch, and Truly herself seems uncomfortable with their relationship. At one point, she wedges herself between them to break them up when they're holding hands, which the adults just laugh off as cute. Another odd moment is when Christine asks Truly to come on stage, and she responds by tossing her backpack to David, stomping off visibly upset. Is it just me, or does she seem pretty unhappy with how fast things are moving between her mom and David? Of course, none of this is meant to criticize Truly. She's clearly been through a lot since her parents divorced, and she's just reacting in her own way. It feels like Christine's never had this kind of kiss before, and now that she has, she's acting like a teenager with her first real boyfriend. Honestly, I was concerned about Truly's reaction to the PDA, even if it's been said that Truly and David get along great. In hindsight, it seemed like she might be seeking some attention from David rather than outright disliking him. But Christine's open-mouthed kisses in front of everyone are just too much. Go ahead, be in love, but there's a limit. Nobody, kids, friends, strangers, wants to see that in public. And why are we sitting through the wedding special before the actual engagement? It's unsettling, especially considering they've only been dating 6 weeks. It feels impulsive, especially with kids involved, and makes Christine come off as a bit adolescent in her approach. Again, no judgment on Truly, who's just navigating a tough situation. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. Look, Sister Wives star Christine Brown's doing the best she can. Some people clearly haven't experienced emotional neglect and abuse for decades on end, and it shows. Sure, maybe she's a bit immature, but newsflash, so are most of us. This woman is dealing with real trauma, finally allowing herself to feel freely after spending years as the dutiful, submissive wife in a situation where she was emotionally neglected and undervalued. She's literally feeling what it's like to be cared for and kissed genuinely for the first time, and yeah, it's a lot to take in. Cutting her some slack would be great, and if you can't, maybe be thankful that you don't get it. Christine's always had a bit of an extra personality, and let's remember, last time she was single, she was a teenager. Now she's hitting menopause and, well, maybe also discovering a different kind of freedom, if you know what I mean. Is the relationship moving fast? Yes. Is watching the PDA a bit cringy? Sure. Would it have been nice if they'd muted the mix? Absolutely. But Christine's an adult who's finally getting some kindness, and like all of us, she's still figuring things out. We all do some embarrassing stuff, even after we're supposedly grown up. So while I'm not exactly cheering her on to marry a near stranger, I also can't hate on someone finally finding a bit of peace. Sister Wives star Kody. Janelle doesn't want me, so I didn't love her anyway.
No, she's just not interested in a relationship.
I mean, is there anything more entertaining than Kody's grade school level of maturity? The man's pulling the classic, well, I didn't like you anyway, and expecting everyone to buy it. It's pure comedy. Even more hilarious because we all saw him pushing for a reconciliation, clinging to memories of their so-called Vegas Renaissance, and repeatedly trying to win her back. He was still whining about her rejection in interviews as recently as late 2023, but sure, let's pretend he never cared. But you know what? Watching an unbothered Janelle live her life is a delight. It's painfully obvious he wasn't actually over her. Sure, they didn't have what he has with Robyn, but there was definitely something he still wanted in that relationship. Maybe it wasn't love at first sight for him. Janelle has openly acknowledged that too, but over 20+ years, they built something he valued. Guess it's just tough for him to accept that she's moved on without looking back. It's honestly baffling that Janelle's son Gabe wasn't mentioned during the tell-all. Kody went on about his relationship with Janelle's boys in general, but there was radio silence about Gabe, and let's be real, Gabe's emotional interview would have been a pretty raw, telling moment to address. It's hard not to wonder if Kody actually set some topics off limits for production. Kody and Robyn seem to wield way too much control in the show's production and cast dynamics. It almost feels like Puddle Monkey Productions is bending over backward to keep them happy. Imagine if TLC could work with a different production company that would actually challenge Kody's narrative a bit more. If he threatened to walk out over a tough question, TLC should absolutely call his bluff. Sure, a lot of viewers tune in just to see Kody and Robyn's drama, but at the end of the day, Kody needs the paycheck as much as the show needs the ratings. He and Robyn might have made some money, but between their spending habits and Kody's apparent lack of financial foresight, it's hard to believe they've saved much for the long haul. So if he was faced with losing his TLC income over a tough question, he'd probably have to sit there and deal with it. Most likely, Kody refused to discuss Gabe's side of things or hinted he'd walk out if it was brought up, putting TLC in a position where they played it safe. You're definitely not the only one who got Nathan's joke. The whole "thank you for making my wife happy" wasn't about the furniture, it was a nod to finally, officially closing the door on the Mary saga. Rebecca is clearly thrilled, and understandably so. If we, the audience, were exhausted watching the endless demise of that relationship, imagine how over it she must have been for years now. And then when Mary said he was talking about Robyn in response to Kody's comment about making one woman happy, I mean, talk about missing the point. It's like none of them are ever actually in the same conversation. Watching them all communicate sometimes feels like a group of kids playing house at a multilingual daycare, where nobody's quite on the same page. Kody didn't end things with Mary, she did. He was perfectly fine with her sticking around on the sidelines while he focused on his life with Robyn. That's what makes Nathan's comment such a gem. He hit the nail on the head, and the irony probably went over Kody's head too. It's interesting to consider that maybe Christine Brown wasn't entirely over Kody when she started dating David. There's something to be said about how quickly she jumped into forever mode with David, from the wedding venue tours to checking out rings, before there was even a proposal. It does give the impression that she was rushing to get all this on camera, almost like she wanted to send Kody a very clear message. Look how happy I am without you. It seems that Christine is after something deeper than just love. She wants to feel desirable again. For years, she's been vocal about how badly Kody treated her and their kids, particularly their daughters. Yet here she is, going all in with David in ways that visibly make her children uncomfortable, like the excessive PDA, even admitting she doesn't care. That feels like a stark contrast to the way she used to talk about putting her kids' feelings first. Even David sometimes looks uncomfortable with the intensity. And let's be real, Christine has been through a lot of trauma. She spent years in a high-demand religious environment, which likely shaped her ideas of relationships. Now, she and David are middle-aged, and they've probably discussed marriage in a way that's more intentional than spontaneous, given their backgrounds. They might feel that courting with marriage in mind is just natural. In a sense, they're choosing venues, rings, and a timeline as a way of building toward a future they both know they want, rather than following traditional steps. For those who put Christine on a pedestal, this all might seem confusing or even contradictory. But in the end, Christine's navigating new territory, and she's likely still healing from her time with Kody. Sister Wives star Kody Brown's friend, Nathan, is seriously infuriating, just like Kody himself. Every time he pops up on screen, I can feel my blood boiling. His silence in the latest episode spoke volumes. Despite being married to Mary's sister, he's clearly all about Team Kody. I can't help but remember a few seasons back when Nathan told Kody that if a wife isn't happy, it's the husband's responsibility to fix it. Kody completely brushed that off, which is typical for Mr. No accountability. It's wild to think he's supposed to be in a polygamous marriage, yet here he is acting all monogamous. They visited another polygamous family in a previous season, and the husband there echoed Nathan's sentiment about prioritizing his wife's happiness. Kody shot that down instantly. I'd really like to hear Nathan's ex-wife's perspective. Maybe she left because polygamy just wasn't for her, or maybe Nathan's just as much of a jerk as Kody. Honestly, Kody surrounds himself with a pretty questionable crowd. One of his friends has a history of domestic violence against his ex-wife, and Kody was a witness in that case related to the AUB. I initially thought he was a character witness for Kyle, but he was actually there as an expert on AUB issues. How does that make it better, though? His best buddy was literally choking out his wife until her voice box was damaged. It's all just a bad look for Kody and his circle. It was a nice surprise to hear the reality star Christine Brown refer to Leon as Mary's child. Even though we knew Leon attended Christine's wedding, this is the first time on camera that Christine has shown she cares about more than just Janelle's kids as her bonus children. It's a refreshing moment that highlights some genuine warmth, and I appreciate it. No snark here, just a positive observation. It's always heartening to see support for Leon. I know Leon tends to avoid the spotlight, so I wonder how many mentions of them get edited out during filming. One thing I really don't get is why Mary spends all her holidays alone. From what I can see on social media, she and Leon seem to have a solid relationship, and she appears to fully accept Leon and their partner. I'm not sure if their partner has changed their name, so I'll be careful not to accidentally deadname anyone. It just leaves me curious about Mary's choices on the show. It seems like her only options are to spend holidays with Kody and Robyn, or to be all alone. Why isn't there a middle ground? It would be nice to see her connect with Leon during those times, especially since they seem to have a good rapport outside the show. It's really no surprise that Mary Brown took her time leaving Kody after watching that awkward interaction with her sister Rebecca and her brother-in-law Nathan, who just happens to be Kody's best friend. They both looked like they were sizing Mary up and casting blame her way. Rebecca made that half-hearted comment about Kody leaving Mary, but honestly, it felt more like a judgment than support. It's telling that their mom was also a staunch Kody supporter until the end, while Christine had a mom and aunt who were openly against polygamy and championed her right to more. Mary didn't get that kind of backing. And let's talk about Nathan for a second. What does it say about him that he's voluntarily best friends with Kody? It's hard to imagine he's genuinely looking out for Mary's well-being when he's so closely tied to Kody. I think Nathan and Rebecca were trying to tread lightly between supporting Mary and not upsetting Kody, who's obviously fragile and demands unwavering loyalty. But their awkwardness came across as standoffish, which could be due to the pressure of being filmed and probably having a production-scripted conversation that was meant to seem casual. Family dynamics can be incredibly complicated, especially when it involves abuse and loyalty. It's often the hardest to recognize and even harder to detach from. I give Mary a lot of grace in this situation. She's clearly had to navigate a lot to get to where she is now. Sure, she hasn't handled everything perfectly, but the fact that she's still standing and seems to have learned from her experiences is commendable. I can't say for sure that Sister Wives star Kody Brown and Robyn Brown have crossed any legal lines, but their behavior is definitely morally questionable. It's infuriating to see how the original three have been left to start over with nothing while Kody and Robyn are living large, keeping the mansion, holding onto Coyote Pass, and even buying a new place. After Garrison's situation, I was already fed up with the show and can't bring myself to watch another episode. It's just become too dark and triggering. While it's true that the OG5 have likely been paid separately for a while, giving Kody and Robyn an unfair financial advantage, that doesn't excuse the way they've handled things. Robyn's extravagant lifestyle seems completely unjust when you think about how the others are starting from scratch. Sure, they should be compensated for their contributions, but as more time passes since the split, the argument that Kody is stealing from the others feels weaker. Just look at Mary. She appears to be doing just fine, despite not sharing in any of Kody and Robyn's wealth for years. I won't defend Robyn's ridiculous claim of being a budgeting expert, but let's not forget that Janelle has made some questionable financial choices too. Remember her bright idea to buy a fifth wheel and a huge truck to haul it instead of purchasing Christine's house when she had the means. Then she turned around and complained about not having any assets. Kody and Robyn definitely suck, but the Browns have made some pretty foolish financial decisions over the years as well. At some point, personal responsibility has to come into play. After so many people criticizing Sister Wives star Christine Brown and David, but I'm honestly fine with 90% of what they're doing. They're not kids. They're in love, and they seem certain they're meant to be together. Who am I to say otherwise? So if they're happy, let them go for it. The only part I'm not fully on board with is how fast it's moving, mostly for the sake of her older kids. They seem uncomfortable with the speed, so if it were me, I might have waited a few more months. But for Truly, this is probably the first healthy relationship she's seen a parent in. David is far more present and caring toward her than Kody ever was. Seeing her mother actually being loved and cherished is so much healthier than what she was used to before. For everyone uncomfortable with the PDA, well, that's just what a lot of people do when they're in love. Sure, maybe Christine comes off as immature, but even if she had no baggage, PDA is totally normal for plenty of people. My husband passed away 18 months ago, and after being married for 27 years, I knew immediately he was my person. We never planned to marry, but then we met each other. And if he were here right now, I'd be all over him, in public and in private. And if anyone had a problem with that, I'd tell them to kiss my ass. Life isn't as long as people think. As for all the psychoanalyzing, I'm no psychologist, and I think the same is true for most viewers. I don't see how anyone can assume she's marrying David solely because of her past trauma. She seems genuinely happy, and her kids probably are too by now. Cheers to them. The father of 18 and Sister Wives star Kody Brown's abandonment of his kids is truly heartbreaking. I can't help but feel for them. I have a dad who reminds me a lot of Kody. He's unable to accept blame, refuses to extend an olive branch, and can be incredibly spiteful. It's painful to see how Kody has changed over the seasons. It mirrors my own dad's downward spiral. I really hurt for Kody's children, who have to witness their father consistently choosing to walk away from them and their lives. The thought of having a chronological record of your dad prioritizing someone else over you time and time again is unimaginable. It must feel devastating to see that unfold on camera, knowing their father is making those choices. The emotional toll this takes on them is significant, and it's difficult to watch. Also, Kody's admission of abandoning Mary is a tough pill to swallow. Last season, Mary's whole storyline revolved around her expressing to Robyn and Kody that she was moving to Parowan because Robyn hadn't bothered to text her for years, aside from when the cameras were rolling, of course. It was her breaking point. She finally realized that it wasn't worth the effort to drive back and forth when the family was essentially ignoring her. Of course, she made a big fuss about not really leaving, but it was clear she was at her wit's end. When they all meet up, it's evident that Robyn is the one trying to bridge the gap, because apparently she speaks Kody. But Kody, true to form, doesn't seem to care and ignores any hints Robyn drops to get him to engage with Mary. Instead, he gets irate when she mentions the new horsey rings, which he interprets as a silent jab. Then he has the audacity to say he's worried that if he abandons these women, Robyn will lose respect for him. It's classic Kody, focusing on technicalities instead of the emotional reality. During the talkback segment, they watch a clip of Mary saying he's already broken their covenant, and Robyn takes the opportunity to interrogate Kody as if he's a hostile witness. She tries to pin him down on anything he might have done that would break that covenant, but he dodges the questions. It feels like she's retroactively trying to defend him against a release that he didn't even acknowledge was on the table. Kody talks so much that he often forgets what he says, which leads to him contradicting himself constantly. He just spins in circles, saying whatever he thinks will paint him as the victim in the moment. The truth is, he broke his covenant with Mary by refusing to have any marital relations with her, and that's also considered abandonment. It's a sad situation all around. What bothers me most about Sister Wives star Kody, Goldilocks, is the glaring absence of gratitude for the 13 beautiful children he shares with the OG3. He's never once acknowledged how thankful he should be for them, despite claiming he never truly loved their mothers. It's infuriating. Then there's his manic behavior around other men. It's cringeworthy to watch him get so giddy. And even after one of his children tragically took their own life, he still finds the nerve to say terrible things about his family on camera. His lack of self-awareness is staggering, coupled with his stubborn refusal to take any responsibility for his actions. I've never encountered anyone as deeply entrenched in their own delusions as he is. What really gets under my skin is how Kody remains the focal point of the show, despite contributing absolutely nothing worthy of that attention. His word salad commentary is hypocritical and meaningless. He stammers through confrontations, like when Janelle calls him out for not speaking to Savannah over Christmas, and then shifts the focus back to himself, claiming she wants me for my abs, ignoring the fact that Janelle was talking about the impact of his estrangement from his kids. But honestly, it's the grifting that truly drives me mad. The backtracking is infuriating. For over a decade, he pushed the narrative that this lifestyle or religion was not just acceptable but healthy and beneficial for everyone involved. Now that he's been left by 3 wives, exposed as a deadbeat, and caught in so many lies, he suddenly claims it was all nonsense. He paints the church as trash and plural marriage as ridiculous, all while whining about how difficult it is to divide his time among 4 homes. Each week, we hear him lament about trying to be present for all his kids and love their mothers, but he conveniently ignores that people have been warning him about this very issue since the very first episode. He can't play both sides, smart and stupid, at the same time. That's the mark of a true grifter. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.